With this new moon happening in the air sign of Aquarius, along with the very Saturn heavy transits happening around the same time, if you've been steadily getting clear on or visualizing how you'd like your life to unfold in the short term or long term, now during this new moon, this cycle of the lunar phase that is so powerful for intention setting, we're being called to tap into our practicality, our sense of responsibility, and what it looks like to actually step into and embody the version of ourself that is ready to receive these manifestations that we're calling in. Hello friends, it's your girl Alina, and in this video we'll be diving into the 5 things you need to know all about this upcoming February 9th new moon happening at 20 degrees in the sign of Aquarius. We'll dive into the nature of this new moon in this sign. What does that look like? What it means for us, ways to align with its energy. And as always, at the end, I'll provide some custom journal prompts so that we can reflect and align together. And as always, if you'd like an outline of this and future astrology forecast videos automatically delivered to your inbox via email, then be sure to sign up for my astrology newsletter. You can find a link for that in the description box below. Now, as many of you know, each lunation and astrological event in general will impact us differently. So I always suggest for you to find out what house this new moon will be falling in your charts so that you can sort of more accurately predict what specific areas of your life will be more influenced at this time. So I'll start by showing you each sign and the house that this moon will land on for you. And I always suggest checking your rising sign. So go ahead to pause and read. I got a few comments in my last video that the text was too small when I showed each sign in the zodiac wheel. So I hope that, increasing the font size here helped a little bit. Next up, let's talk about the nature of a new moon. So as many of y'all already know, new moons mark the beginning of a new lunar cycle. And it's a period of time where we see that the light and energetic nature of the moon is at its lowest point, where there is none of the sun's light reflected on the surface of the moon. It's actually a perfect time to go stargazing for that reason, because the moon, like the brightness of the moon, isn't outshining the stars that you might be looking for. But from an astrological perspective, new moons are seen as a beautiful time for rest and reflection, because just as we see in the night sky where the moon has its phases of being low and high, its peak being the full moon, so do we. New moons are also seen as powerful times for reflecting and intention setting for the new lunar cycle, year, season, or month ahead. And just as we see that the light builds on the surface of the moon to its energetic peak at a full moon, so too can the momentum around the intentions, goals, and plans that we set also build in momentum. And this is why you see many people doing new moon rituals, where they take time to get grounded, present, and they really reflect on things that they might have learned over the course of the previous lunar cycle or month. And with that knowledge, with that context, they're able to better plan with better self-knowledge of what they can and can't do, of what is within their scope, what interests them the most, and what works specifically for them. Now, when we see a new moon in the air sign of Aquarius, there's this air of collectivism, curiosity, creativity, looking to approach things from a more innovative or progressive way, and embracing the uniqueness that we bring to the table. Now can be a powerful time for reflecting on anything maybe from a previous lunar cycle or the previous year or our past in general, where we might have been kind of expecting different results when we have been approaching it with the same actions. It makes me think of that quote that insanity, the definition of insanity is like doing the same thing and expecting different results. And I think that new moons in the sign of Aquarius can be powerful times to reflect upon anything that we might have noticed where we have been getting the same results that maybe we didn't necessarily want, and reflecting on whether or not we have been approaching it in the same way as well. And as you see with the transits happening around the time of this lunation, these things really will be aligning for our betterment in terms of stepping into the person that we need to be in order to comfortably and with ease receive the manifestations that we're calling in right now. Now, in terms of transits for this lunation, first up, we're receiving a sort of calling for us to put a magnifying glass onto our plans and ambitions, whether they be career, personal, or even New Year's goals. When we see a Mercury squaring Jupiter transit at the time of this new moon, it's definitely the type that can bring about situations that tend to highlight the importance of balancing our exuberance and ambition with practical planning. Now, this is because we see Mercury, the planet of thinking, how we process things and exchange information, inspiration, downloads, and learning, having this square aspect with Jupiter, the planet of expansion, luck, and optimism. And with a square aspect often bringing about sort of amplified challenges or friction between the astral bodies involved, we see that this can be the type of transit that can tend to spark a growth both in our ambition and a questioning of exactly how we'll be executing them. So overall, staying clear on our intentions, whether that be keeping them posted on your wall or in your planner, and especially if they're bigger goals, taking time to break them down into actionable steps from the year to the season to the month, so you can stay clear on what needs to be done to help you in the long run to really set a powerful tone for how things will play out this year and this lunar cycle. Next up, at the time of this new moon, the universe will be very responsive to acts of persistence, integrity, and patience, especially when it comes to manifesting what you desire. Now, this is thanks to Jupiter sextiling Saturn, which is a transit that will be happening. And this is because we see Jupiter, the planet of expansion, luck, and optimism, like mentioned before, having a very easy flowing and inspiring sextile with Saturn, the planet of discipline, maturity, and restriction. So when we see them come together in this way, they can definitely tend to create very fertile soil, so to speak, when it comes to doing things like taking responsibility, not cutting corners, and actually acting upon any lessons that we might have been given in terms of growing into the person that we need to be in order to receive our manifestations with ease. So all in all, this transit in combination with this Aquarius new moon energy definitely has the potential to help us with manifesting new opportunities that might entail more responsibility potentially. And this transit can also set the stage for personal growth, prosperity, and developing our inner wisdom. And with the context of the last transit that I mentioned of Mercury squaring Jupiter, and how it also encourages us to get more practical and clear on our next steps, these transits are really offering us a lot of luck and expansion if we're ready to step into the potential responsibility and growth that our goals and manifestations might be asking of us. Next, we have the Sun squaring Uranus. Now, this will likely be a more powerfully felt transit just because it involves Uranus, one of the depositors of this new moon, because it's a ruling planet of Aquarius. So the Sun squaring Uranus is a type of transit that can tend to spark an inner rebellion and a need to break free from the mundane, so to speak. And with the Sun being in the progressive sign of Aquarius, things like progressive approaches to potentially boring or tedious things within ourselves and breathing new life and fresh perspective into it can definitely be conducive around this time. Now, on the other side of the coin, this can also manifest as outside circumstances or forces kind of pushing us to change things in ways that we might feel resistant to at this time. So overall, staying open to how new and progressive approaches can be made that work for you can be very helpful for getting through this new moon and this type of transit. And finally, we see that Mars will be sextiling Neptune at the time of this new moon as well. And this is a transit that can tend to spark passion within us and really take actions that are in alignment with things like our spiritual beliefs and an inner drive to really actualize things that might feel like they're just ideas or just our imagination. And this is really because of Mars's involvement with these things. We see that Mars is the planet of drive, action, passion, force, dominance. And Neptune is the planet of imagination and spirituality. And so there's quite a few ways that this type of transit can manifest, but one of them that comes to mind that I feel called to kind of, highlight is that we might feel a lot more passionate about speaking up for the things that we believe in, advocating for those who might not be able to advocate for us. This is a type of transit that might manifest as situations that elicit within us a passion to protect, defend our beliefs or people or our community in some way. It can also manifest as us being a lot more passionate to put into action a lot of our beliefs, like actually take aligned steps in alignment with things that have been coming into our minds, things that we might have felt like downloads, things that we might believe. It could be spiritual, it could be religious. And so around the time of this new moon, we might observe that in the world as well. And by the way, as always, if you have made it this far in the video, and you're not subscribed, what are you doing? Please subscribe to this channel, as I make videos for every full and new moon, and I offer readings like these, energy readings and forecasts, so stay tuned for that as well. Okay, so in terms of ritual ideas or any sort of tips of actions that we can do to be in alignment with this new moon and the transits that we're seeing right now, my biggest thing, and I plan to make a meditation just for this because I feel such conviction and excitement about it, is that it really seems like these transits are lining up to really support us in getting clear and practical with any sort of goals that we have, whether it be for the year or for the month or for our lives. Really rewarding those who get practical, responsible, and approach it from a more mature space of not just being like, these are my goals and one day it'll happen, but really exploring like, what are some action plans that I can take in alignment with that, and also exploring who, and this is really the biggest piece, is who do I need to grow into potentially to receive the things that I want to manifest comfortably. And so that can look like in a ritual format, that can look like really visualizing who am I as this person who is living this life that I want to manifest with ease, who's comfortable doing it, who's handling it, not stressed out from like, oh my gosh, all these things are coming, but grounded in who they are. What does that look like? And from there, sort of reverse engineering that and getting clear on whatever steps might feel aligned for you. A short story that I feel called to share with you is that I have a close friend who, oh my goodness, 2023 was their year, y'all. 2023 was their year. They were manifesting like crazy, okay? But one big distinction and interesting thing that also showed up for them was that there were a handful of times where they felt pretty overwhelmed with the manifestations that they wanted. They felt pretty overwhelmed, and basically it had to do with business stuff, and they wanted to manifest like unlimited clients and like just like they're booked all the time. And guess what, y'all? They did it. They literally manifested it. Everything they said they wanted to do. It was so crazy talking to them and hearing updates on them and supporting them in any way that I could. And just like, oh, it was just, and it continues to be amazing. And even with the overwhelm, they're still, you know, reaping all these benefits and living this life that they called into existence in a lot of ways, and that they prayed to God for. But I really wanted to highlight that distinction of how there were moments where they felt this overwhelm to where they were like, yo, I literally need to take a step back. Like, yo, I'm literally getting burnt out. Like, and I'm saying yo and like, whatever. But, my point is that that's a perfect example of how we can all manifest what we want. We can call into existence what we want. We can go out there and get what we want. Like there's so much unlimited opportunity in this world and so many possible paths in this world for us, right? But sometimes when we want these things, sometimes we're not always fully considering like, okay, who do I need to become? Like, what is it actually going to look like from a practical perspective? Really, you know, getting into the point of how we're having strong Saturn transits around the time of this new moon where we can be setting these intentions. Where's the practicality? How are we growing? You know what I mean? How are we meeting the callings that life might be calling for us? You know, how are we stepping to the plate potentially if these manifestations come about? I also have a really good book. I'll leave a link for it in the description. It's from this TikToker. You'll recognize her probably. I forget her name right now, but she also talked about that. One of her first chapters, and it is kind of like an autobiography. She said, don't just pray for what you want. Pray for the ability to receive it and be ready for it. So anyway, all of that to say, I feel like that's a big theme with these transits and with this new moon. And if you don't feel called to be setting goals and to get into that mode, if you don't feel like getting into this mode right now, that's okay too. I can never emphasize this enough that new moons are also about rest. They're also about literally just calling your energy back to yourself and existing and understanding that even when you're not consciously processing things, just by resting, you are processing things on a deeper level. I hope that these things are inspiring to you, maybe motivating for you to kind of get into it. And I'm excited to release my Aquarius new moon meditation in alignment with this to potentially help you guys. All right, and finally, let's get into these Aquarius new moon journal prompts. So what I will do is I will read out the prompts. You will also find them in the video description. And when I'm done, you will just come back. And if you have your Auraline Astrology Planner, then you can go ahead and flip over to the dedicated new moon journal prompt area. We're sold out, by the way. No big deal, but what? Like, yeah. Anyway, moving on. Has there been anything that you've worked on personally or professionally that could use an outside perspective or benefit from collaboration? Describe the version of yourself who is ready to comfortably receive your highest goals. Are they any different from you now? And finally, are there any new or existing intentions that you would like to set or review at the time of this new moon? All right, y'all, I hope that you enjoyed those journal prompts. And if anything came up for you as I was reading them out, I would love to hear about it in the comment section down below. But if you've made it this far, this is something that I've been forgetting to mention at the end of like all my videos. Gosh, if you've made it this far, I invite you to comment 3 plant emojis. I don't know why, but that came to mind, and I am just calling in spring to come in sooner. And just to have a sort of stream of consciousness now, less edited, there's no more, you know, transit reports and things like that, just talking to y'all. I just find it so interesting to explore that topic of how we can kind of get in touch with our future selves and embody them now. Like, there's so many interesting ways to do it. So for example, I saw this one content creator who I follow who's very spiritual. Something that she said is that now she tries to remember in certain situations where she feels like it's a tough situation, like maybe it's like a friendship thing, relationship thing, work thing, whatever it is, where she's kind of like unsure what to do, or she's feeling upset or hurt or anything like that. Something that she does is she asks her higher self. She thinks like, what would my higher, future, older, wiser self say to me right now? Or basically tapping into that sort of vibration or that sort of energy to kind of tap into and kind of get clear on like, oh, that's exactly, oh yeah, that makes sense. And oftentimes it can bring so much clarity. So I just wanted to bring that up because it doesn't just have to be journaling about it or, you know, doing a meditation. You can check in with your future self whenever you want. And then also, I forget what podcast it was, but they were also talking about that of like basically not making a list of all these goals for the year, but getting clear on the person in general that they want to embody. Oh, it was Balanced Black Girl. It's one of their most recent podcast episodes. It was like for the new year. It's through reflecting on our identity and what we might be able to embody and become and how we can evolve that oftentimes it can highlight any sort of limiting beliefs that we might have. And it can help us to reflect on like, where did that even come from? Did that come from my parents? Did it come from society? Did it come from friends? How can I separate and stop internalizing these outside influences that are telling me who I should be and who I can't be. Oh, okay. I'm going to wrap up this video, but the last thing that I wanted to mention is thank you so much to everybody who filled out the survey for the retreat that I am planning. Oh my gosh, I'm planning this with my friend Jen, and she's somebody who hosts spiritual gatherings in Los Angeles. She's actually hosted a bunch of them, and she has a lot of experience in workshops and personal growth and development and creating spaces where we can get together in communities and really grow together and learn from one another. So I'm so excited to be co-hosting this retreat with her. And yeah, things are in the works. I actually might be able to put, you know, tickets on sale for this retreat starting within the next few weeks. So I'm really excited about that. I just want to give you that update. I'm working in collaboration with Trova Trip to do this, and they're helping me with planning a lot of stuff in a faster and more efficient way than we would have been able to do on our own, just Jen and I. So yeah, but that's basically it. I'm going to end this video here. And with all that said, I will wrap this up with my favorite quote. And that is, be gentle with yourself, because life is about the journey, not the destination. Okay, bye friends.